Hello, it's Monday, 27th July 2020. The time now is 6:42 p.m. The temperature is, today's been pretty cooling, a pretty cooling day. Been raining for a bit this afternoon, and not like those like damn hot kind of rainy days where we're used to having here in Singapore, but the nice cooling ones instead, the ones that are wet but still enjoyable. And that's what she said. And I went to IKEA today. IKEA. I bought a big jar that's got like a little tap below to which is like perfect for my kombucha brewing, which is what I'm intending to do now that I have the jar. Very excited about that. I like drinking kombucha, so I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna learn how to brew. Is that what you call it? Or yeah, I'm just gonna experiment and make it for myself so that I don't have to spend money to buy it. I'm just waiting for Tiff to pass me the SCOBY. So yeah, very excited about that. I'm also excited about today's episode with Malvina. She's the owner / founder of Home Yoga. Just one home, I said home twice. Home Yoga, where I'm teaching at now. Holla! This episode, I forgot to say that at the start, is brought to you by, we got new sponsors. Okay, so first one is BC Flowstate. We all know and love Bronson Chan. Rediscover the way you move, feel, and perform through the use of natural and authentic movements that can help you build strength, regain your mobility, and reconnect yourself with your physical body. Head on down to his Instagram at bcflowstate, BC_FLOWSTATE. I hope I got it right. And see what he's been up to, see what he's been posting. He's been doing a lot of IGTV stuff about movement stuff and yoga stuff, so go and check it out. Of course, he's very famous for his Hokkien speaking video that he did for the seniors that went viral, so do check it out. Second, wait, let me click on the thing. What's that beeping? Beep, 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 beep. Second sponsor that we have, a new sponsor for the party. Who, Sia? I'll tell you who. Spice up your life with this unique coriander chili by Red Dot Chili Peppers. Hey yo! Yes, homemade chili by my friend Steph, whose the original recipe was created by her dad, who is an actual chef, and now she's the one taking over the reins. So, for the love of all things spicy and green and good, if you'd like to order a jar or 2 or 3, check out the links in the description below. Everything in there. You can place your order either through IG message, or you can go to the Facebook page and then you fill up the form, and then yeah, delivery is like, I don't know, like $5 or something. Go try it. Coming back to the pod. I need to drink more water. My guest, Malvina, I remember when I first met her to do the potty, and I was feeling really nervous, and she was nervous as well. So we were both nervous, and I was worried about like whether, like what should I ask her? How do I keep the conversation going? And I wanted to make her feel comfortable, and she was stressing out about, just having people listen to the conversation. And then we were all freaking out, but that's my mom doing dishes at the back. We just had dinner. But this was all like just me messing with myself, and I had to get out of my own head and just listen attentively and be as present as I can. And I think after the first 20 or 30 minutes or so, as we began just talking and sharing, and then it just started to flow, and I was just really enjoying the conversation with her. And she has so much wisdom to share in her own way. And we talk about talk about her relationship with yoga. Talk about her relationship with yoga. What else? We talk about the history of Hom and how it began. Her experiences with love. And of being a mother and giving birth to her 2 beautiful sons. And one more along on the way. Yeah, so fun times. Without further ado, here is Malvina Kang. Hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, here we go. Enjoy. Okay. Malvina, you need no introduction, but I'll introduce you anyway. So,
okay, great.
You're a yogi, you're a businesswoman, you're a mother. Thank you for joining me, doing the party with me.
That's a new word, potty.
We're in this space. We're in the Valley Point studio, which is also a place that you connect with very well. So yeah, let's just take it all in. Thanks for doing this with me. I'm very excited to speak to you. I was really excited when I was speaking to Emma the last time, and that was I haven't interviewed someone in a long time. So having interviewed him and then quickly having gotten the chance to speak to you, like it still feels very exciting, like, you know, that feeling. So yeah, I'm feeling excited.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love admin, so I'm looking forward to listening to that podcast.
Okay, usually I'll start out with just asking about yoga stuff, like how you got into it, what made you who you are today, essentially. So could you just tell us a brief experience of how yoga has played a part in your life?
Oh my God, it's huge for me. I mean, it started when I was in primary school in Singapore, and I was so stressed out with all the exams and the academia and just everything, like the pressure that I put on myself, actually, that I ended up just like with this massive anxiety and started hyperventilating, and all sorts of physiological problems arose from that. So
from primary school?
In primary school, can you believe it? I was actually preparing for the PSLE exam, and I was like, I need to get like these marks, otherwise I will fail in life and I will never succeed. And I had all these, I was just like, my mind was going crazy, and I wasn't given the tools by anybody to work with that. Luckily, I had my dad, and he brought me to this like amazing yoga teacher, and we just spent 60 minutes in Shavasana where she just chanted and spoke to me softly, and that was my first experience with yoga.
Singapore.
This is in Singapore. She had crystals everywhere. Oh. She had candles. She has dim lights, a yoga mat out, and I was in the middle of the room, and I was just in Shavasana, and she just taught me that relaxation is something that we have to actually actively pursue and do. So that was my first experience. I was 12.
So it wasn't like a regular class. It was just a yin.
It was just like Shavasana for 60 minutes because I was so like tense in my body, and I was literally grinding my teeth, right. And I had like my hands all like bunched up, tensed, and she kept sort of like releasing them, and I literally felt this like humongous release in my body, and that was like the first ever experience of it, where it was so deep, and I understood that there is this other thing, this other space that I can go to, where it's also me, and it's like I'm not that person. I don't need to always be that stressed out, anxious person. I've also got this really nice, relaxed state that I can go to as well.
And all that was something that you realized at such a young age, like when you, because primary school, for me to sit there for an hour, I don't think I would have been able to understand what was going on. I would have probably thought that this is super weird. But it's quite interesting that you managed to connect to your body in that sense.
Yeah, I kind of grew up with quite an interesting background. My parents were really kind of spiritual, and
is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure, they kind of have this Taoist faith, like very Confucianistic or whatever you want, Confucianism kind of approach to life. So, and then their best friends who are like kind of like my godparents, they were healers and mediums and like just
people who are spiritually influenced.
Yeah, so I kind of grew up in that sort of family, and I just always was told that there is something bigger, something more, something that this physical world isn't just our only reality. So from a very, like, since I was a baby, I always had that in my psyche. So it was very natural for me to just be open to this yogic space as well, because it was all very similar in energy for me.
And from there, from that one class, what happened next? Like, you left that class, and then what? Okay,
so I went to school in Canada. I did some more yoga there, but I didn't really relate to anybody, teachers wise. And then I bumped into a Bikram yoga studio, which was like the only yoga studio that was in the island I was on, which is Victoria. And I just loved it. I fell in love with it. I loved the physical practice. I loved the breath work. I loved the sequence that I could just come back to each day. So I just practiced that throughout the summer when I was in grade 12, which is the final year of school. And so I did that, and that was a more physical practice, but what it did was that it got me into my body, and by doing that, it got me into that space of calm and relaxation. And then when I left high school, I went to Los Angeles, and I was like, oh my God, like it's like it's a mecca. It's like where all the vinyasa yogis are. And so I started practicing with like all these amazing yogis in LA, and I was just like studio hopping, just experiencing all sorts of teachers. And back in the day, there were no like teacher training, so you kind of just like chose your teacher that you want to work with, and then you just like just hang tight to them and ask them questions once in a while and hope to get some insights. I went to like Yoga Works in Westwood and Larchmont, and just all the Yoga Works there. So Matthias Ratti, who owned the studio, I think she sold it around that time, but she had a whole slew of teachers who taught there, who are now like our famous yogis or whatever you want to call them. So just like learned a lot, didn't do a training, just practiced and, just opened myself to vinyasa yoga. Went to Brian Kess's studio in Santa Monica and learned from him, like squeezed myself into a yoga room full of sweaty people and just, experienced power yoga from his perspective, and just like did everything. So it was so much fun. And then I kind of also like, I studied international relations in university. So I had an amazing lecturer called Dr. Stephen Lemmy, and he was the dean of my school, and he created this program called Joint Collaboration or Joint Peace Program or whatever, and we had to go to like the inner schools, like to teach like the what do you call that, like grade schools, to teach kids about international relations and collaboration, because that was my degree. I was studying international relations. So I ended up going to all these little schools, and I was teaching them international relations. But then I was like, how do I teach them international relations? It's such a big word, and I'm talking to like 6-7-year-olds, and I realized I could pull from yoga. So then I started talking about peace and love and kindness and compassion and togetherness and oneness, and then playing games around these ideas and these values. And so that was like my first yoga class, teaching these kids when I was in school in LA. And then I did that for like a few months, and then I wrote a little report about it and then sent it back. So it was all volunteer work, and that was sort of my first yoga teaching experience, which obviously sort of helped seed, the kids yoga that we have now at Home Yoga.
Oh yeah, that's true. Because like Home has a certain style. It's leaning more towards that maternal side of it and the kids section. That's why you have the mums and bobs. That's why you have you focus a lot about prenatal and postnatal.
Yeah.
And that was inspired from back then.
I mean, it's like something that I've always felt I've always connected with, and it wasn't something that I was like, I'm gonna go and do this, and it's something that I feel so strongly about. It kind of like just arrived into my life, and it felt right, and I followed it. Yeah.
Okay, that's part of your style as well, I guess.
Yeah.
Like as a person, because I think like the way you are, or rather like say this place, the colors, the paintings, every little detail is a representation of who you are as a person and how you want it to be lah. So then us like being in the space is also a reflection of how you are and how you feel.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think I was talking to you the other day and I was saying, Valley Point is like my favorite studio now, because I mean, I love Raffles when I opened it at the very beginning, because it represented me then, like, 11, 12 years ago, 2009, whatever that is. And then, I loved OC because it kind of like represented the next phase of my life, just when I was becoming a first-time mother. And then I love Valley Point now because it represents me now. And we're constantly evolving, and whenever I come in here, I just feel so settled. I feel so happy because everything from the lighting to the colors of the walls to the mats to the floor, everything it has come together beautifully to reflect who I am at this stage in my life, at least.
It's
and then
nice.
Maybe 5 years from now we can have another conversation.
in another place maybe.
Maybe we'll see.
Having been in the yoga scene, or rather being in the business or so for a long time, you were one of the few people that first started opening studios in Singapore. Comparing how things were back then and how things are now, what's changed, or what hasn't changed?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. When I first opened, we had like 3 studios in town. We had Pure in Chevron, and then we had Absolute Yoga, which is upstairs from here, the one on the second floor in Valley Point. And then we had actually they weren't here, they were in Tuluk Corral. And then we also had Bikram Yoga in City Hall. So there was not many yoga studios, and so we came along and opened up.
This was back in
2009, and then we 2009 December we opened, so I would do 2010. I started working on it like halfway through 2009. I mean, it was not as mainstream. Like yoga was something that people still treated as a more esoteric practice. So it was like, you do yoga, and it's like this other thing.
There's an image tied to it,
like it was not something like now. It's like everyone does yoga, and it's like you look cool in your yoga pants and with your Lululemon gear, and it's like this lifestyle that's created around it, that if it's like it's a status symbol almost, like it's really like like it's become, which is amazing, because it's like, can you imagine like how far we've come, with yoga? It's like now it's in everyone's language, and it's something that is no longer the other thing. Like you now can sort of incorporate the values and the feelings, the values of yoga into your life. So I would say that's the main difference. Yeah.
Was it challenging back then to start a yoga business with such a stigma, or rather, it's not very popular back then? But I guess also another question to tie into this question is that how, from such a young age, because you opened up home when you were very young, and it's a huge challenge, or it's a huge endeavor to want to open up a business, and during that time it wasn't very popular. Let's say yoga wasn't the cool thing to do. It was something to do, but it wasn't like the in thing. And how did you feel so connected to it that you felt that, I think I'm going to open up a studio?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I had something different to share. So I had people coming to me, and I was like probably, for the fourth studio that opened in Singapore. Now we've got 1 million. And back in the day, like 11 years, 2009, we're 2020, so 11 years ago, people were saying to me, "You're crazy, like there's so many yoga studios in town, you shouldn't be opening, you've got so much competition and this and that." And I never liked that word competition, because I feel like there is no competition in yoga or in anything you do. If you truly believe in your own intentions and your own clarity of vision, then you will bring something that's unique to the world. And so I kind of came in with that sensibility that I'm gonna bring in my perspective on yoga at that point in time. So we had the hot yoga, we had some vinyasa flow, so it was an amalgamation of my own personal practice. So I felt really clear with that. Like I felt I was obviously very nervous, because I was like, I was listening to the people around me saying, you're not gonna make it, you're not gonna succeed. But I was clear. I'm headstrong that way, so I just went for it.
Have you always been this headstrong, or did something guide you? Because, I mean, this is a very it's a very bold move to opening up a business is already very scary. There's investments and there's a lot of potential to fail. Maybe like from what was there something that you felt that was very, like you were so confident that this was the right thing to do?
I mean, there is always a potential to fail even now, especially now with the current situation. But I would say back then, one of the reasons why I opened it to start and why I decided to do it was I was working in a public relations job, and I mean, I really loved it. I loved the dynamic nature. I love interacting with the clients. I love everything about it, but I just sat with it and I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. This isn't me. It's not my dharma. And I was really clear with that too. So I started getting really antsy and really frustrated and starting to just feel angry and resentful that I was in that position, even though I liked doing it. I wasn't connecting with it. And then what happened was my godmother, whom I call auntie, she passed away really suddenly and really quickly. And her death just shifted me completely. And it was like, she was only in her 40s and I was in my early 20s then. And I was like, I am not going to live my life and die working in this PR job. So it's like, I have to get clear with myself now what I truly want to do. And there was always this thing inside of me from a very young age, I want to change the world. I want to change the world. And I was like really sort of idealistic about it. And I realized I can change the world in my own little way. And the yoga studio opportunity kind of arrived to me. I didn't really plan to go and do the yoga studio. What I did was I quit my job. So that was the first step. And I was like, okay, now what? I have only like a couple $1,000s left in my bank account. And I literally had no money. And but I was lucky I was staying with my parents, but I was also resenting that because I didn't have my own personal freedoms. And there was so many things that were so I was at sort of my, a juncture, So I left town. Went to New York. And I stayed at a friend's house to save some money, and I was recalibrating. Before I left, for some reason, I put up Property Guru, and I looked at some spaces, and I wasn't thinking I'm gonna go open this yoga studio. I was just thinking, let's just see what happens and what I can find. And probably my unconscious was already guiding me, like my soul was already guiding me towards this space, but I wasn't consciously aware of it. Then my first property I went to was the Raffles Place one, and I walked in there and I really loved it, and it was this beautiful light-filled space, and I felt so good in it. The energy was just totally right. Spoke to the agent. I didn't want it to sound too excited, and I just said, "How much is it?" And he was like, "Oh, this much money," and I was like, "Oh shit, I don't have this money. I need to go and find this money." And then But then he called me like a day later and he was like, actually, it's no longer available. So I was like, oh, that's good. The universe has said to me, I'm not going to be doing this anymore. So I left on my trip. When I was there in New York, he called me and he was like, okay, it's available now. Do you want it? And there was this thing inside of me that was like full body, yes, I'm going to have to go back to Singapore and do this. Went back to Singapore, begged my dad to give me like $300,000 because I needed that money. And he was like, no. And I was like, please, please, please. And then it took a few rounds. And then finally he agreed, and which was I'm so lucky for. And then I opened it within a month. And then within a month of opening, I made all that money back because for some reason we did so well.
Wow.
And I felt like everything in the universe was supporting it. And then I returned that money back to him, and I was back to square one again. But I was already open, and then I went from there.
Wow. I mean, I remember hearing this story when you told us at my TT.
I hope it's like the same version or
it's the same version. Yeah. Okay. And then you were saying about how you were doing your business plan or something.
Yeah.
Or something, right? Yeah.
I mean, I was writing this business plan. I was like, to create a contemporary boutique yoga studio. That's personalized and intimate. I still have it in my head, and it still carries to today. And he looked at it. He was like, "What is this?" I said, "It's a business plan." He was like, "Oh, okay." And then he like put it away. And then later on, he said to me like, what's all this writing? And I had cash flow statements and projections, and I was like Googling like how to write a cash flow statement, how to write a business. I had no idea. I mean, this is like, I'm learning as I went. And then, I learned it and I did it. And so the exercise of doing it was good. But what he said to me at the end, he was like, you just need to stop thinking and stop working on your documents and start doing. And I was like, oh, that really shifted me. And then I started doing, and then it was like, and then the next thing he said to me, which was really profound, was like, baby steps, one thing at a time. Don't like, because I was going mad, a little bit mad, going like, what should I do? There's so many things to do, teachers to hire, this and that, walls to paint. And he said, it was one thing at a time. Every time you make a decision, be there for that decision, be really focused, concentrate, make the best decision for that wall paint, and then next decision, and then go with that. And then it was like, all of a sudden, like every decision added up, and then it created the studio.
It's very sound advice. Makes sense. Your dad is a business guy.
He is, yeah.
Okay, then I guess that helps with the guidance for everything.
Definitely, yeah.
You mentioned also about Dharma. What is your Dharma?
Wow, that's a really good question. I mean, I feel like dharmas are constantly evolving and changing.
So, okay, to go a little bit more into that question, what did you think your Dharma was back then, and what is it now, and how has it changed, or how has it evolved?
I mean, back then I would say that, like I wanted to share yoga. I wanted to bring yoga to people, and 11 years ago it wasn't the mainstream. So I wanted to make it accessible to all walks of life, to the elders, to young people, to people like us, to everybody, and make it something that is part of our life. And I feel like we did that, and over the years my Dharma, I guess, evolved through becoming a mother and the shift of that, and then it kind of I started wanting to bring in children's yoga and specialize more in prenatal and postnatal and postpartum, and specialized practices, and then more of the I guess esoteric practices and the subtle practices. And then I feel like it's sort of shifted throughout the years, I guess through my own evolution. So I think there's this deep part of me that always believes that there's no right or wrong in yoga. Everyone is right, and everyone should be included in the conversation. So at Home Yoga, I try to make it as inclusive as possible. So we have all sorts of styles of yoga and conversations about how the pelvic floor should work, or how we should be in triangle, because there's this way with Iyengar, and there's this other way with Ashtanga, this other way with like Power Vinyasa, etc. So there's like yeah, and I just, it's an open space. There's no judgment. There's no criticism. It's just let's share and let's learn from each other. And I think that's sort of, yeah. So back to the question on Dharma, it's shifted really subtly over time, and to this point now where, yeah, I'm sort of also in that space of reflection, especially during such a time of reflecting on what's next. Like, where do we bring this to as well?
I guess like now during this fucking pandemic, things have shifted a lot, and like how have you been managing the shift, like from the logistics of it to the managing of people, you know, like what have you been going through in terms of that?
I mean, it's been really meaningful in the sense that I have never been through something like this before. So it's another, none of us have. And it was another learning point, and it was a huge growth for me, because it definitely brought up my stuff and the people around me and their stuff. And I had to sit with it, and I had to be with it, and I had to reflect on it. And it brought up some changes that, were good, some weren't good, but it was just all like, it's just this transition into this, I guess, new world that we're living in that has just shifted a lot of the personal dynamics and, studio dynamics and everything. It's quite interesting. And I'm actually like, I feel like we're still going through it, and we're holding our breaths, and
holding the breath is a good analogy, because I feel like we are in a way like things are going on smoothly. Things have to go on at the end of the day, but there is this like a little bit, we're holding on a little bit, because like anything can happen. The government can say something, or the pandemic could explode, or for whatever reason, it could be the end of the world, right? If you want to think of it that way. So then like how do you as the individual deal with it, and then how do you as the business side of it, how do you deal with it as well,
Yeah.
Because like as an individual now, like you're worried about what's to come, your future, your finances. You're worried about just the state of everything, and then you have a business. That's even something else to think about. But then also to think about all these things and to be worried constantly over something that you have no control over. It's also going back to the yoga, where you need to find that space of grounding. And like we were talking about this yesterday, about how like Kofi was saying, go back to the yoga. Yeah,
amazing. It's like, I mean, to that, whilst you were saying that, what was coming up for me was I was listening to this YouTube video, and I know this is a little bit wild and a little bit out there, but it was this psychic channeler, and she was channeling the aliens, the Palladians from the Palladian Security Council, and she was...
I feel like I've seen this video before.
It blew my mind, because what they said to her to tell us human beings was, it is a time where so many people are sitting in a space of fear, and there are so many people there now that if you bring yourself into a space of love, which is the yoga path, right? Like that's what we're trying to do here. We can actually manifest and create so much, because there is so much space there, because everyone else is in fear. So I was like, wow, like I gotta get back into the other category, because obviously, personally, like, I vacillated. I went into fear many times, going like, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to support everything with the studio? How am I going to, get through this 2-month shutdown? With the kids, in my years all the time, and being a full-time mother, that was totally not, it was too overwhelming. And I had to, it was this constant reminder of going back into this space of love that just really settled me, and it really helped me, and I'm still working with it, and that's the practice.
Can you elaborate more about this? What the YouTube thing said, and like what this space of love meant to you?
Oh, well, I mean, like in my mind, when this girl was talking about it, I literally like had this bubble of like, I'm quite visual that way. So I had this image of all these people like in space of fear, and I obviously don't want them to be in a space of fear, but if they're there and they've made the choice to be there, and I have also gone there myself, so I'm not saying that I'm not one of them, and then I had this other vision of a bubble of this space of love, and it's full of white light, and it's beautiful, like everything is beautiful, and it's just this never-ending, infinite space, right? And then I actually in my mind like picked myself up from that little bubble of fear, and then brought myself into the bubble of love, and then I felt like, wow, like it was anything is possible.
Hearing what you just said, what is your interpretation of fear in that retrospect? Is it an actual space that you can be in? And if it is an actual space in your mind or within, then is it a space that you can easily just walk out of? So conventionally, I would think that fear is something that's involuntary, right? Someone points a gun at you, you feel fear, right? It's not that I choose to like, oh, okay, I'm going to walk into this space of fear, or I'm going to walk out of it. Because if faced with danger, it's not voluntary whether you can go in that space or not. But then from your explanation, it seems like it's something that you can have control over, fear.
I think it's like the space of fear. I would sort of describe it as living in the ego mind. And I think in our yoga practice, we're trained to, I guess, work with the ego mind, to notice the ego mind, and to observe and witness the ego mind, and to know that ego mind is not who you truly are, and that who you truly are is that you are this light being, and that you are this
you're separate from the ego. You are you, and then the ego is not you. It's
exactly.
just a part of
and you are consciousness, and that you are the flow of consciousness, and you are one with all. And then if you look around you, you go, even those living in a space of fear or whatever, like they are also light beings, and they're also consciousness. And then we start practicing that empathy and compassion. So there's no judgment, like, oh, you're fear and I'm love, and ha ha ha. Like it's just this noticing and observation and witnessing, and then once you are able to witness the ego mind, then we can start to, once you put awareness, that's the practice of yoga, right? Like once you put awareness to something, then you can start to shift from that something.
It's about being able to be aware of it, then you can take the action to cure it, or to remedy it, or to fix it, or whatever.
Exactly, yeah. That's the practice. And you know what? It's hard, and it will be the practice till the day I die, and I'm sure with you as well and everybody else. But I think that's why we came to Earth, to learn this, and then to practice it, and then to do it all over again in our next lifetime.
Where would you have been had you not bought that place in Raffles all those years ago? Where would you have been had there been no home studio?
I rented that space, so I don't have that much money to buy a building at 21 years old. But I don't know. So I was like desperate to be an ambassador of Singapore. So I applied to the Ministry of Defense like 5 times, like, please hire me. I'm so qualified. I've got an international relations degree and this and that. And every time the application came back rejected. I wanted to be a journalist to report for the news, and then I got rejected there too. I wanted to be a writer. I applied to the magazines, and I applied to the Condé Nast in New York. I applied to the companies, the SPH here, got rejected because they thought that I was, the one here thought I was a little bit too political and too out there with my thoughts, and then the one in New York I couldn't get a visa for. So it was like almost what I wanted to be and what I thought I should be didn't happen because something else was guiding me back to yoga.
I think I can relate to that in the sense where I never thought I was going to be a yoga teacher. It's not one of, I don't think most yoga teachers who go into take that TT will think that this is going to be their profession. It's just one of those things that you just showed up to class one day, you do it, the more you do it, you like it, then like, oh yeah, no, I'll take a TT, and then like, okay, maybe I'll teach a couple of classes, and then after a while, you just quit your day job, and then this is your full-time thing now. So it's a very strange feeling to be like, if you look back 5-10 years ago, no, maybe not 10 years ago.
What were you doing before? Before yoga teaching?
Right before yoga teaching, I was a copywriter. And then before
in
that...
In an advertising agency?
No, in a creative agency.
Okay.
Yeah. And then before that, I was just doing a lot of random stuff.
Did that satisfy you, or it was just soul destroying?
It didn't... I think every job is a means to an end on some level, right? So you do the job to earn the money, to then use that money to do the thing that you wanted to do. That was how I always interpret work as. I knew that I always wanted to travel. I just wanted to keep traveling. So then every job that I did was temporary. It was just, I do the thing, and then I quit, and then I'll go and travel. So then I hopped around a lot. I was just always hopping around. I did, what did I do? I think like, I was in F&B for when I was very young. I think everybody started out. Like those easy jobs as a teenager, you just be a waiter for a bit. Then I worked in a production agency. Then I worked in PR for a bit. Very short stint.
Oh, PR same with me.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think Then I did copywriting for a bit. I think the copywriting job was my favorite and my longest job, as an adult. And then I did yoga part-time. I taught part-time and I was working full-time, which is very common. You just sort of take a little step into the water to teach yoga for a bit, but then like, okay, go back to your job, because then yoga teaching full-time was never seen as a real, quote-unquote, real job. And then the more you did it, the more I realized like I was spending more time just Googling stuff at my workplace about yoga. I was waiting for the day to end so I can go teach class or to go practice. And then from like 70% to 30% become like 60-40, then 50-50, then you just keep, like now it's 100% teaching yoga. So it's a strange journey to be led into this space. And then I feel very fulfilled as a teacher, because you're not just teaching, you're also learning, right? The more I teach, the more I learn how to manage people, how to manage energies. I'm learning about myself as well. Through the practice itself and through the teaching of that practice, it is revealed to you in a personal way, a better understanding of how things are, and it humbles you as well. It can be, there's a lot of different little experiences as a teacher that you might feel, and oftentimes these are never taught in a TT. You go to a TT, you learn how to teach, yes, but then by actually teaching, it's so different. And I feel like I've grown a lot as a human being through the help of yoga. And right now, my level of understanding of yoga, it just is so little, it's so small compared to say you or towards Edmund or to anybody else. Like, I feel like there's so much more that
I'm learning from you now
to be revealed.
Yes.
And then when I did my first TT, I thought I knew everything there was to know about yoga. I went in thinking like, oh yeah, I know how to cue, and I know about alignment. And then I left my first TT feeling completely lost, because I knew nothing about it. I thought I knew everything there was to know. I went in, I came out, I knew nothing. It felt like say my understanding of the world, like say if I'm a human on the world, I know, okay, gravity, okay, trees, nature. But then after the TT, the world, I took a step back and I could see the universe. And now I felt so small. Like I wasn't just a person in like Singapore. I was a person of the universe. And then that retrospect, I don't know anything about the stars. I don't know anything about the planets. The concept of yoga felt so big. And then I understood that it was a matter of constantly learning. And my journey is different from your journey and different from the other person's journey. So there's no right and there's no wrong. We go back to that as well.
Definitely, yeah.
And then it's just a constant like sharing. We are teachers, but there's a misconception, because the teacher training, you come out, you're a yoga teacher, and you're teaching, you're not instructing, right? You're not a yoga instructor, sort of. You're a yoga teacher. So you have to teach from a space of authenticity. You can't teach from something that you don't know, right? Because then you're inauthentic anymore. Fitness instructors learn the thing and then they rinse and repeat and they teach you how to do the push-ups or whatever. Yoga teachers, not the same journey. That's why everybody is different. They have their own styles. And after a 200-hour, let's say after a month of doing your TT, that rarely qualifies you to teach, right? It takes anybody can, 1 month later they come out and do the TT, but whether you can teach or not is a different story. I rationalize it in a way where you take your driver's license. After 6 months or 3 months, you know how to drive. Here's your license, you know how to drive by the eyes of the law. But whether you can drive or not, it's up to you, right? So that takes skill and that takes a long time to learn. So then as you teach, the more you learn yourself and then you grow as a person and then you grow as a teacher. My experience from teaching was that the more I taught, the more was revealed to me, and then the more I realized like the yoga is helping me improve in a certain way, because you need to be able to be you need to be better for you to be able to teach from a higher space. You can't be an asshole and then you go around preaching to people, but you have to be a better person to be able to preach and to teach, right? So then it forced me to improve as a person. But then through that improvement, there were also doors that were opened up and revealed and that you had to face throughout this journey. So then constantly this will always happen. I feel like this will never end. This yoga journey will never end. That's why people always say like, oh, I'm a student of yoga first, right? You don't come in and say like, yeah, I'm a teacher, I know everything, because you don't know anything. And that's what I love about yoga, and I'm excited to keep going on this journey. Yeah, I went on a tangent.
Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing. That was
I went on such a huge
so
tangent.
inspiring, and I feel like to step into this role of a yoga teacher is it takes so much courage.
It does.
Oh my gosh, like people like outside of the yoga teaching or yoga whatever, like outside of this, they think, oh, they say the word, I'm just a yoga teacher, and they use the word just. And I'm like, no, like, do you know how much the yoga teacher has to go through personally to really step into the authenticity and the honesty and the platform of being a yoga teacher? It's not just doing a TT for 200 hours. It's that personal evolutionary work. It's that self-inquiry. It's that commitment to growth and transformation within. Like, these are not small little things that you just tick off a list. These are like things that you are committed to and you're dedicated to for your whole life to do. So I have a huge respect for yoga teachers. I just feel like I'm not teaching myself all the time now, but when I look at the schedule and I see all your names on it and everything, sometimes I really get goosebumps. I feel the experience. I feel the depth of knowledge. I feel the personal evolution of everybody, and it's like I'm so touched to be able to live with this every single day and to hear stories like yours.
I know what you mean. Like, sometimes people will say like, oh, you're only working 2 hours a day, you're only working 4 hours a day, that kind of thing. But in those 2 hours, in those 4 hours, you're completely present in class, and it's not so much just speaking. You're not speaking, otherwise you can just on a radio and press play, and then like that the person can just teach yoga. You don't have to be in a class. You don't have to have a person standing in front of you. It's a matter of managing the room, managing the energies, observing everybody, making sure that they're safe, remembering your sequence, adapting that sequence on the go. It's a lot of things to pay attention to, and remembering your sequence is just one thing. You have a good memory, you got your sequence, you're good. But then it's sometimes I still feel the difficulty of teaching is you have to give a lot, and you have to manage energy. I don't know how to what I'm whether I'm describing it right, because to me it feels like it's a matter of also managing energy, where everybody comes from different places in their lives. Maybe they had a long day of work, or maybe they just came from a happy wedding, so you don't know what people are going through. But when they come to this space, it's everybody's moving in the same direction, right? And that's up to you to orchestrate that. Sometimes people may not be able to follow because of whatever baggage that they have, and you have to be okay with that. And you have to teach, or you rather have to guide them to let them know that it's okay to be in that space. And all that in 60 minutes, you're like, what?
I mean, okay, first of all, like, you guys, yoga teachers, are light workers. You are healers. You are energy bearers. Like, do you know how much work that takes to hold that sort of space and to viscerally connect on that kind of level? So yes, you come in here and you teach 2 hours a day, but for you to have come into that space and teach those 2 hours, you had spent a whole day managing yourself, connecting with yourself, coming in, connecting with yourself in the space, becoming extremely present. I mean, who is extremely present all the time in 24 hours? Like, that's a lot of work. And then coming in here and doing the healing, and with your voice, with your connection, with your energy, with your tonation, with your sequence, with whatever you bring in. I mean, it's so powerful.
And like it forces you to like, if you're human as well, right, as the teacher, and if you had a bad day, or if you had an argument with whatever, and you had to come and you had to teach a class, you still have to bring that same energy into class. You can't like bring your baggage in. You have to put that outside, teach the class, and then go back out and have to
deal with it
again. So there's a lot of self-discovery and managing of your own self to be able to be in that place.
And people think, oh, that's not work. But that is the work. What other work do you want to do apart from this work, right? And then don't forget, as yoga teachers, you need to study all the time. That takes time. That takes some space. Creating sequences, the self-inquiry, that all takes time. You think that just arrives from nowhere and just happens upon you? Like, it's years of experience, it's years of study that brings you into this role of being a yoga teacher. So yeah, sometimes when I hear people go, oh, just a yoga teacher, I'm just like, okay, well, yeah, maybe they just don't have a sense of what really happens, what really goes on for these people. And also, like, even for me, like, managing the business and the yoga studio and teaching at the very beginning, I was starting to notice that I needed to choose one or the other, because yoga teaching by itself is a full-time job. It requires my full energy, and managing the business was another full-time job and requires my full commitment. So now, I made a decision a few years ago to concentrate on just managing the business, because that was, it felt right. I felt that was where it was guiding me to. But yeah, back to that point of it's a commitment. It's a lifelong commitment. It's completely like life-changing, and it's not just something that you do on the sly. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like
I mean, you get it because you're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it. It's a great part-time job. It's the hours are good and everything, but it as you do it, like, just you start to learn more about yourself. That will come for sure. And then when that time comes, when you are aware of that moment, are you able to come to terms with it? Are you able to face it? And sometimes people don't reach that point of awareness, and then they just end up and not to shit on like yoga teachers, but it's more of like, you can sense whether a teacher is just repeating. He said it, or he or she has said it 10,000 times in every class. He's just saying, there's no real authenticity behind those words. So then you're just essentially pressing play on the recorder, and then the person just talks, and then you just do the thing. And then sometimes it's fine, no one can tell, but then some people can tell. And if one person can tell, other people can tell. It's a very intrinsic sensation.
Totally.
Why some people relate to other teachers and not so much other, like this, I relate to you more, I don't relate to you more, or whatever. So it's also about finding your style, and that style means that you have to search within to find who you really are and what kind of thing that you want to teach.
I mean, the best teachers, because I mean, at home yoga, for example, I've known a few teachers for the last 10 years. Copper, for example, Andrea, I've known her since day one. Admin, Lee, I've known for five or 6 years now. Blair for the last few years. And these are really amazing teachers. All are so different, so unique. Sita as well, I've known for a while. I mean, they've been around for a long time in Singapore teaching yoga. And what is special about the ones who are good and the ones who are really at the top of their yoga teaching, they're not the ones with like the Instagram following, and they're not the ones with like the huge counts on social media. They're the ones who are committed to growing, to learning, to be in this space of complete humbleness and humility, and a space of gentleness, and a space of non-grasping. And
all the things that involve what yoga is.
Exactly.
Off the mat.
And they are, and I have, I'm so inspired by these people, because it's like the reason why they're so good and so amazing is because they have committed to this path personally. Like it's their own dharmic work. Amber included, like she's now teaching next door. I just seen them grow and then see as individuals and yoga teachers, and it's like, wow, it's these teachers, I'm just like, wow, it's such intense transformative work, and I'm always in awe and blessed to be surrounded by all of these amazing human beings. And sometimes I walk into the studio and I bump into one of the teachers, and I'm having a bad day or reflecting on something that's going on for me, and they would say something to me, and I'm not like best friends with everybody in the studio, but I have a relationship with everybody in a really beautiful way. And I might happen upon someone, a yoga teacher in the studio, and he or she might just say one thing to me, and that is what I needed for the day, and then I walk away with that. Wow, right. Like, okay, so it's amazing what we can achieve here at the studio.
I feel like that is a very yoga community kind of thing, where people that come to yoga to do yoga come from all walks of life, right? But then when they reach here, they are all yogis on some level. So then that energy in that space, that community is very close-knit. Mm-hmm. Everybody cares for one another. Everybody's looking out for one another. But then we're still an individual. We come to the yoga studio to practice together, but we are all on our own journey, on our own mat. So then there is the sense of community, but then there's also a sense of personal space. So
exactly. And it's like this saying, you came to earth, well, I don't even know the saying, but it's you came alone and you're going to die alone. So this process of growth is very individual. So yes, the community is necessary to help facilitate and support the growth, but ultimately
still
it's you.
Yeah. You are competing with yourself on the mat. No one's challenging you. Like if the guy next to you does a handstand, he's not taunting you. It's you who want to he's doing it, so I want to try, and you fall off or whatever. That's your fault,
Exactly.
So that's what the yoga has to teach you.
Definitely. We can go on and on about yoga. I mean, I love yoga. This is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love yoga. And that's what, sometimes I lead the business of yoga workshops at the trainings, teacher trainings. And the first thing I say to them, it's, don't be doing this if you want to make money from this. This is not a money-making project. Yeah. This is a passion. This is a lifelong passion. You have to believe in it. And the only reason why I'm doing this is because I believe in yoga. I believe in I believe in the power of it. I believe in how it heals human beings. I just completely 1,000,000% believe in it. And sometimes when we talk about yoga, I get really overwhelmed with it because it's so large and, like what you said, so vast. But do this job and do this work only if you really, 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 really love it. And then the money will come, and you will be supported no matter what.
Yeah, just trust that the yoga will take care of you.
Exactly.
How has your journey with yoga changed? Say from the first time you went to class to then opening up a studio until now. How has your idea of it, how has your practice changed or evolved?
Oh, that's a really amazing question. I've never really thought much about it. When I first started practicing, I was dancing a lot because I was doing ballet. So I was doing that 7 days a week, 3 or 4 hours a day. It was a very physical thing, and it was something that was my moving practice, the ballet. So when I came into yoga at the very beginning, I enjoyed it because of the physicality of it. It got me into my body the same way that ballet did. Right. And I loved it. What I loved in addition to it was the breath, because finally someone's teaching me about breath, because in ballet I would hold my breath to do pirouettes or to do an arabesque or whatever. So that was profound. And then over time, so the ballet practice or the ballet commitment training, it really taught me discipline. It really gave me a sense of, you do this every day and you show up and you will get better. So when I first started practicing yoga, I had the same intention. I'm going to do this every single day. I'm going to commit to an hour and a half, because back in the day, 90 minutes was the thing. Now it's 60, now it's 45. But 90 minutes on the mat. And I was very, very committed to that daily practice. And then over time, as I became a mother and I had other responsibilities come into my life, I realized I had to also I had to learn to be a little bit more free with myself, and to also trust my body and trust my intuition as to what I might need for that day. Because back in the day, I would be I'll just do 90 minutes physical practice, and I'll push and I'll push and I'm gonna be better. And it's great because it's mental discipline, it's a commitment, and it's a very it's like a spiritual shift when you're on your mat. But then over time, I've learned to just trust my body, to trust my intuition, to go to move the way that my body is showing me that day, to maybe not practice one day because my body needs to rest, to maybe do Shavasana for 60 minutes the next day, to maybe do 2-hour practice the next day, to maybe do 15 minutes of pranayama the next day. And it's this is asking the question and being very accepting of what is needed. And obviously becoming a mother, when I became pregnant, I became so much more mindful with myself and with my body, and I had this other being inside of me, so I was paying attention more, and I realized my practice deepened with the mindfulness that I was bringing into my practice, and I started to learn mindfulness then after years and years of practice. So it evolves. And then post birth, I moved a little bit the first 6 weeks, but I was healing my perineum, so I couldn't really do that much. And then I had to learn my body was different, so I had to learn my body. I had to understand it all over again, and then it shifted again. And so it's like this never-ending, beautiful evolution. And and I'm still sort of experiencing that evolution now.
Let's talk about being a mother, or let's talk about love.
Oh my God. I love it.
I don't really know you, right? This is the first time we're sort of really having.
So it's actually great, right? We're talking.
So I'm not sure what to ask about this topic, but I want to know what I wrote here. I wrote let's talk about love, dating advice. What's your story behind that, and what's your experience with love?
Yeah, okay, wow, this is another big thing. I have always been there's this thing inside of me since I was a little girl. I'm in love with falling in love. I love being in love. I love the feeling of love, and I've always imagined this guy is gonna come and taking me away, and I'm gonna have this amazing life and this and that. And then I guess I always had that imagination. I always had that fantasy, and somehow along the way it kind of got destroyed because I was I realized the reality of it was that it wasn't like, you're not gonna find love through someone else swooping you away. You're gonna have to find love through the deep personal work of loving yourself first. And even, a couple days ago, Blair's like, do you love yourself? And I like sat with it. I'm like, and I was joking. I was like, no. And he was like, okay, we've got a problem. Yeah. And I mean, we were kind of joking around a little bit, but what he was trying to say was like, love is like, to be able to love somebody, you have to love yourself. And that journey for me was about, all through my 20s till now, and meeting Blair, and he is the love of my life. But he's only the love of my life now because I finally learned to love myself, and I finally learned to trust that within myself, I'm not getting it from him, and I'm getting it from me, and what I'm seeing in him is a reflection of what I feel within myself. And and the same for him as well. So when we come together, we meet, and I'm not needing anything from him, and he's not needing anything from me, but we meet and we join, we merge, and we share our lives together. And then there's no codependency. It's just it's a love.
It's two individuals coming together in a common space, and that space is love.
Yeah, exactly. To put it in simple terms.
Similar like how you described fear, where it's a space that you can, in a way, freely come and go. It's just a matter of being aware of it and being able to control your emotions. Was that too strong of a word? Control?
I mean, you don't want to really necessarily control your emotions, because the emotions are also really real.
So,
and we all have them.
Yeah. So you're not going to suppress it. You're not going to deny it. If you are scared, you're scared. If you're happy, you're happy. You can't resist it. But you can do something to it. You can, that's why you can choose to feel suffering. You can choose to feel pain. You can choose to feel happiness, even though you're in a space of unhappiness. It's a choice in a way.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely, like, I had to go through experiences of being in relationships and marriages that I thought was love, but it wasn't, because I was grasping at love. At the idea of it, of like, why aren't you loving me as much as I love you? I'm giving you more, and you're not giving me as much. And it was this sort of, like there was expectations that weren't met, and I'm, relationships are hard. Like, it's not an easy thing, and it's definitely for me like a place where I practice my yoga. And I'm so grateful because I have someone next to me now where we have very similar values about the way we live our lives, and we're both very different people, but we're still able to meet based on those very strong values of who we are, what we are, and how we want to parent, etc. So, but definitely I've been through relationships where I grasped at love, and I wanted this person to fulfill something that I didn't have within me. So it was a hole that I was filling within me, and I was using love as an addictive thing. It was like a potion, and when they weren't giving it to me, I was like blaming them and shaming them and making them feel bad, when actually it was totally my responsibility, and I wasn't taking that into account. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
I think it's a very common thing for people to seek love in a way to fill up that whatever the emptiness or something that's missing in their lives. Once I find that person will fill that part of me for me. But it isn't that person's responsibility. It is your responsibility to heal yourself. And then when two beings who are full meet, then you can start to create something that's new. Not otherwise, it becomes an attachment thing where like, I need you to feel happy, you need me to feel happy. And then if you don't have each other, then you're miserable. No one, right?
Exactly.
You still need to be happy in your own space. And then if something comes along, then great. You complement each other and you can grow together. Not in that toxic sense where we need each other, otherwise we will fall apart if we're not together. Then if if you feel that way, then you'll be forced to stay in a relationship that may be abusive or may not be working out, but you're too afraid to leave.
Exactly.
And that's just a lack of realization of what, or rather your understanding of what love is. So then what is your idea of love?
Oh wow. I mean, I am completely, at this point in my life, I'm completely in love with Blair. So I know deep down within me that he feels exactly the same. And it's something that is so pure and so wonderful. And then there's also that love, but it's a love for him that has arrived for me. So, and it's been a huge journey to get to this point. And I must say that throughout my 20s and my early years, I definitely wasn't in the space of loving myself. And even through years and years of practicing yoga on the mat, I only really discovered this self-love, I would say like a couple years ago when we met, where I finally met somebody who reflected that love within me. And then obviously love, like for my children. And then you keep going, you keep expanding love for humanity, and then love for the planet, for Mother Earth, and love for nature, and then it keeps going. But I've been, since I have started exploring this love within myself and going into that space more and more, and obviously sometimes I leave this space and I have to remind myself to come back into the space again. I have been discovering this like infinite possibilities of love, love of home yoga, love of the community here, love of the students who I speak to, and appreciation for that. And then this love transforms into gratitude for everything that life has given me. And then it's like, and then I was saying to Blair the other day, because he does his meditations in the morning, and I say to him, sometimes when I go into like my meditations and I go like, I'm gonna practice like a gratefulness meditation. I'm gonna say, in my mind, go through all the things I'm grateful for. And then next minute I'm like, I'm grateful for Blair, I'm grateful for my children, for Monroe and Navy, I'm grateful for my family. And next minute I'm like, I keep going out that circle. And then it's like, and I feel that feeling of love reflects the same energy as gratitude, where you just infinitely expand upon it.
That's true. I feel like there are many different layers of love. There is love for your partner, romantic love. There is love for your mother, your children, like motherly love, that self-sacrificial love that mothers have. Like no matter what the child does, you will always love him, There is love for food. There's love for yoga. These are not romantic loves. This is just different level of loving. And once you have an understanding of that, and then you feel it in different ways, and you're able to appreciate it in that particular space. Okay.
I guess once you arrive within with that feeling of love and lovingness, then wow, it's everything. Everything becomes beautiful.
Yeah.
Like everything you eat becomes delicious, and everyone you meet becomes these reflections of lovingness within you, right? And then everything just starts, and then you start trusting that life is just beautiful. And it's been like amazing. Actually, we're having this conversation because the last few weeks has been up and down and topsy-turvy, and so I had to really keep reminding myself to trust that the truth of nature is that everything is love, and everything is beautiful, and everything is connected, and everything is consciousness. And like once every time I hear a bad story, like, oh my god, like this thing is happening in the world, I just have to quickly bring myself back into like this other space of trust and lovingness. And then I was sharing with you the other day, but what Copper said to me, he was like, just trust in the path of yoga, trust in this, in the knowledge that we are all going to die one day. We don't know how we're going to die, and that's irrelevant, but we know
there's an end.
There is an end, and we also know that we can choose how we want to die. And that is with grace and peace. And that was like so comforting, because no matter what happens in the world, or this or that or the other, we will die. And when we meditate on death, we will always meditate back onto life and the magicalness of life.
Just like when you were saying about how when you hear a lot of bad things, or rather, like your understanding of love is that there's love everywhere. There's love in food. There's love, like you eat a meal, the fact that you can enjoy this meal is love and gratitude. The person that prepared it out of love for you. Like it's life force, like you eat it, you consume it, you feel good. Everything that you do, everything that is made, every tree, every insect, that at its core is love. And when you see bad things happening, most of the time the bad things that happen, it still has hints of love in it. Whether it's rioting, the riots are violent, but the cause is because of injustice, which comes from love for George Floyd, right? Or whether it's people are stealing food at the market, it's because I want my family to be able to eat and to use the toilet paper or whatever,
Yeah.
So everything that they do, they use hate, or they use fear, or they are driven by that. They're driven by violence, but in a sense, it's still called love. So then, love is at its core, maybe it's good, but then there are a lot of things that have been done in the name of love that are bad, like abuse, spousal abuse, revenge. All this is also in the name of love. I love you so much. This bad thing happened to you. Now I'm gonna go and do it back to that guy. So there is a balance, right? And it's how we understand and how we use that knowledge of love and how we live our lives in that way to then be graceful with it, or to go out kicking and screaming.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like with love, there's obviously like people doing, bad things out there. And I think it's really important to practice that sense of compassion as well for everybody, and non-judgment, because it's so easy for us to say, well, you're throwing bricks at glass windows and doing this to people's businesses and ruining it. How can you do that? You're this and you're that and you're the other, and that's judgment, it's criticism, it's not constructive, because it's creating more separation and more division. So I feel like sometimes, I catch myself as well, like making those judgments, and I really have to pull myself back and sit within and reflect on it. And actually, like, if we can all somehow balance the conversation and find a place of oneness where we can all meet in that space of love, compassion, whatever you want to call it, it's or consciousness or whatever. And so we're not arguing. I'm saying, I understand why you're doing this, and it's you have your reasons, and I'm with you in that. But then you practice that empathy and that compassion for someone doing that, right? For someone throwing a brick at someone's window, and then they come back and they say, I understand why you feel this way, and I meet you and I hear you, and then only from that space can we create positive, constructive dialogue. Without that meeting, without that sense of merging and oneness, I just feel like we're just continuing separation, division, one-upping each other. We're continuing the cycle of violence and fear, and it's never ending. Where do we go from here?
I feel that is driven by ego, right? I want to be right, or your way is wrong, and I'm trying to impose what's right or what I believe is right onto you. But there are a lot of ways to deal with a lot of things, and like it goes back to the yoga, no? Like
always.
Yeah, it always does.
Yes.
In a way. So I had a point, but I forgot what I wanted to say.
It's like that. Maybe think about it, but I'll share something. Like, if it's like, we're talking about Shiva and Shakti and male and female and yin and yang and light and dark, and we can all very easily go into dark and meet the self that will inflict damage on people. Like, I have as much capability to kill somebody as you do, as does the person in jail does who killed somebody. And if we meet that darkness and we accept that darkness, and then we also meet the light, and we somehow balance these forces within our bodies consciously on an individual level, then this gets extrapolated out into your wider community, and then that goes into the world. So I always feel like the work starts from you, from within, and we can go out there and we can like be activists and we can be like, dude, don't do this, don't do that, black or white or this and that, but still that's all like separation. It's all this or that, or black or white, or male or female. It's like, you know, sexism, racism, all sorts of things. Can we just have a dialogue where we actually address these things within ourselves first before we go out there and try and address what the world needs? Because most people aren't doing that, and I'm talking about myself as well. Can I try and fix my relationship with my brother first and address that and try and heal that before I go and save the world? Can I try and work with that hole within myself that I'm carrying around me, or that shame or that guilt, that mom guilt I'm feeling all the time, that is making me feel disempowered in my day-to-day life? And then like from that space, we heal those things, and then maybe we're whole enough to go and do the things that, oh, maybe the globe, everyone's doing it, and maybe the world will just naturally heal itself, right? From all the misgivings and all the racism and all the sexism, and men can be men and powerful and individualistic, and women can be women and powerful and individualistic, and blacks can be blacks and whites can be whites, and we can all come together. But yeah, I feel like sometimes I feel like definitely the conversation has to start from you.
It's about having that open and honest conversation with someone that you disagree with. And it's okay to disagree with someone. Like, I mean, anybody will disagree with you if you have a different opinion about something. But it's about understanding that where that opinion comes from, or having that dialogue with someone, because then that is the one that the conversation is what brings the two of you together to form that oneness.
Exactly.
You can disagree, like say I disagree with you, you disagree with me, but we understand where we come from, and I understand why you want to live your life in a certain way, and understand why I want to live my life in this way. No right, no wrong, but we understand it, and now we can sort of move on with our lives. But if you don't have that conversation, then it's always like, oh, it's supposed to be that way. No, it's supposed to be this way. Fuck you,
Yeah.
and then like everything goes crazy. So then it's about the dialogue, and in the context of yoga, it's also about that oneness, and how you, like say as a teacher, you're supposed to teach that. You're supposed to communicate that we are professional communicators. We're trying to communicate an idea that we feel, that we have, that the yoga has taught us. So whatever I've learned, I'm trying to communicate that to you in the class through asanas, or through cueing, or through contemplation. And in a way, you save the world, you change the world by changing yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
I have to work on myself first, my inner workings, and once you tune in, once you are able to work on that, you are a happy person. You go out in the streets, you're not so angry. You don't want to start troubles. You don't want to start a fire. Someone bumps into you, you're not gonna punch him back. That's how it starts. So once you are sorted out, once you are okay on all your levels, when you go out, you don't cause any trouble, and people who are with you like to be around you, and they learn from you. That is infectious. My good energy bounces back to you, and then that person goes out and spreads that. So then in a way, the yoga can change the world, because it brings awareness to the self.
Oh my God, it's right? Amazing.
So
yeah.
you want to save the world, you want to stop all the violence in the world, you go to yoga. You go to yoga class.
And you stop the violence that you're inflicting on yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And we are all doing it. We're inflicting violence on ourselves in some way or other, whether it's through our thoughts, or our diet,
yeah.
or the way we sleep.
Just how you party every night.
We drink
yeah.
like alcohol every single day and binge drink or whatever. Like those things are also violence on ourselves. And maybe we want to work on that first before we go and try and save the world. So.
And all these things are not just because you indulge in the alcohol or the 20 packs of cigarettes you're smoking every day. It's you're doing that because of something else. You're doing that to socialize because maybe you're alone. You're doing that because you want to fit into the crowd. It's never about the act itself. You're not doing it because you want to do it. You're not eating McDonald's every day because you want to. It's something else underlining. And if you're being aware of that, which the yoga teaches, then you can address that issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such deep inner work. Maybe this podcast will help change the world.
I hope so. It's a dialogue.
Yeah,
right?
it's a dialogue. I'm learning a lot as well. Like, because whatever I'm saying, you're reflecting back onto me, and I'm like, wow, like that's, I'm listening to it with a fresh perspective, and it's nice.
I appreciate it. Let's see what else. I have some generic questions, and I feel like you might have nice answers for this. Okay. What do you think is the biggest problem in the world today, and what can people do about it?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so much happening in the world right now. I think we kind of just talked about this, didn't we?
That's true, yeah.
It's like, it's not even one thing that is a problem. It's an amalgamation of the things that we're doing to ourselves, the addiction, the stories we tell ourselves to justify and rationalize why we're doing this, to fill the hole within ourselves that is creating that separation and that division and violence and fear and all the stuff that we're seeing come up more recently. So, we're not even just talking about race or sex. We're talking about the environment, and we're talking about Mother Nature being destroyed, and we're talking about violence at home, and people addictions at home, and depression, and children who are so stressed out that they're jumping off buildings, and people who are hungry, kids who are hungry in the world who aren't being fed because there aren't planes. There aren't planes flying there now because of what's going on. I mean, there's a multitude of problems, but yeah, I think but it always starts from the person. So that's sort of, yeah, we can go back to that conversation again, but I think we already talked about it.
What are you afraid of?
Oh, wow. That's a really amazing question, because I've never really thought about this. I mean, I have this, like, sometimes I get afraid of losing the people I love around me. And I have to work with that, because that, in its essence, I'm afraid of death. And we just said that if you meditate on death, you will activate that meditation on life and its life-giving force. And so it's a deep work for me, because I think of like people in my family dying, or I don't even actually, I'm not personally afraid of my own death. Well, maybe I am. Maybe I'm just like I'm lying to myself right now saying this, because
you'll never know until you have to face it.
Well, actually, let me tell you the story. Like, when I was giving birth to Navy, I had Red as my midwife and Amber as my birth assist, and they were two amazing women. And I was in active labor for 9 hours, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna have this natural home birth. I'm definitely gonna be okay, and I will work through the pain, and I will come out alive. I got to 8 hours, and I was like screaming at Blair, "Take me to the hospital right now!" Like, and I meant it. Yeah. I had no I just wanted the drugs. I wanted the relief from the sensations that I was experiencing in my body. For some reason, he had to leave the room. I think because Monroe was jumping into the water pool, and he was going crazy because I was going crazy because we're so connected. Yeah. And then it was just me and the woman in the room. And then all of a sudden, like, I felt this like blanket of just softness and gentleness and that very Shakti feminine energy descend upon me. And by that point, I had expressed to Red and Amber, I want to go to the hospital, and they were like not judging it. They were just there holding space for me. And Red said to me, okay, well, if we want to go to the hospital, we have to get in, we have to walk to the car, we have to get into the car, we got to drive there, we got to do that registration, and we got to walk up the stairs into the lift, and and by the time she got to that point, I'm like, I'm not fucking going to the hospital. I'm having this fucking baby at home. I don't even care anymore, because it was the thought of going through all of that, and I was really right at the end of that transition where I was about to birth my baby. I let go, And I closed my eyes, and I was on my bed, and I was on my side, on my left side, and Amber came to me and she said, Malvina, she held my hand, and I was squeezing her so tight, and she's so fragile, and I thought I was going to break her. And I said to her, and she said to me, Malvina, you have all the women, all your ancestors in the room with you now, holding space for you and supporting you through this birth. And her words just sank deep into my pores. And Red was at the very bottom of the bed because I think she was noticing that the baby was about to be born. So she was positioned there, and I just kind of like closed my eyes in between my surges. And that moment, a thought came through me, and it was, I will just die now. Like I let go of life. And I realized after that for 9 hours during my entire labor, I was holding on so desperately to life. I didn't want to die. And I was so scared to die. And it was like going on this humongous, like, shamanic journey or medicine journey where I was like at the end of it, and I'm like, I'm okay with death because I had to let go to it. And that moment, Navy's head came out and he was born. And I was like, oh, I'm still alive and I'm okay. So I realized, like, you know, there is that fear of death that we hold within us. Even if we say, I'm not scared of death, you get to it and you really meet it, then let's have that conversation then. So anyway, after the birth, I turned to Blair and I said, oh, that was intense as hell. And he said, yep. And he was tired because he said that he's been doing like yin yoga the whole night, holding me up. And he was also really exhausted in his body. And I said to him, I will never have to do a medicine journey ever again because that was it right there. And he nodded his head, and he didn't say anything back to me, but I knew he understood because he's been on a few medicine journeys. So I was like, yeah, so maybe there is a part of me that still has that within me, the fear of death. And maybe I have had let go of it during Navy's birth, and I don't know. And maybe I'll find out again with this new baby that's coming in December and its birth, and maybe I will discover then whether I really have had let go of the fear of death. We'll find out.
Fuck. I feel that's the motherhood is something that men will never understand, and men and women will never be equal because men will never have the ability to give life. That sacrifice, that pain that you endure for a birth, I will never be able to go understand or go through that. So, you know. But
you're not meant to.
Yeah, we're not meant to.
Men are supposed to be like this Shiva-like energy. We obviously you want to have that balance of like the feminine and masculine within you, but like imagine that you are a boat, a ship, an ocean liner in the ocean, and then you've got the waves. Like I imagine the Shakti energy, the womanly energy to be the waves of the ocean crashing onto the boat, like, you know, trying to distract the boat from its purpose and from its destination. But this boat is Shiva, and it's like it's going ahead, and it's going to meet its destination, and it's relentless in it, and that is equally as powerful as that Shakti energy that is true. Bouncing upon the ship that's trying to steer off course. Right. And I feel like a lot of men these days. Yes, I feel. Well, okay. I want to try and be as PC as possible.
No need, not necessary. Go on.
You know, I just feel like we, definitely we have a history of suppressing women, and, you know, with not being able to vote, and we have the suffragette movement that definitely, you know, put that women died for the cause, and we've had this in our ancestral lineage. So I definitely do not say that there isn't like sexism happening in the world, because it's in the history, and then those are facts. But also I feel that now we've come in full circle to this time where we just have men now we've got the Me Too movement, which is wonderful because women are standing up and speaking up. But then we've also tilted the balance the other way, where men are scared to speak up. Men have become subjugated to this sort of feeling of being if they say something, they will say something wrong.
There's a repercussion to what you say.
Exactly. And then it becomes like it's like this balance has tilted, and women have become now the abusers and men the abusees, and it doesn't work at all. Like we all need to meet. We all need to, there doesn't need to be an abuser or an abusee. Like men need to stand up, be powerful, be Shiva-like, be strong, be masculine, and embrace those qualities within themselves. But sometimes I see now, like because of this movement, men have become wimpy and useless and cowardly and scared to speak up. I know I'm generalizing here, because I know many men who are very masculine, very powerful and amazing, and I'm very inspired by them, but I'm talking about generation here of just the way the dialogue has tilted in its favor. And it's good because it's like we love these women being strong, but at the same time, like can we stop the abusing back and forth? Can we just really sit in our knowing that I am masculine and I am powerful, and I am feminine and I am powerful, and we both and these two energies meet and create the world.
You need the directional force of the boat to go straight, and you need the waves to push that boat to go forward as well. So without the boat is just a boat without waves. The waves is just waves with no direction without the boat.
Yeah.
You need that balance.
And sometimes it's also a matter of acknowledging it. Like I get really Shakti sometimes. I'm like, and I can also be very Shiva. Like I will be at home and I'll be like irrationally like trying to start an argument with Blair, like because I'm not feeling good that day, and he's being like and he can see that, and he acknowledges that he needs to be that boat in the ocean to hold space for me, to bounce upon him and to wreak havoc upon him and to create a huge scene and this and that, and then hold space for me to be that violent force, destructive force, really. And then it's like, and I don't know, then there is this kind of natural symbiosis that happens between both of us. I mean, this is kind of taking it a little out there, but you get it. Yeah.
I get it. This has been interesting. I feel like I need to breathe for a bit.
Because I mean, like, if you really think about it, like, women are crazy, right?
Hey, you said it. I didn't say it.
Like in a good way. Like we have that within us to destroy. We've got that Kali energy. We've got that destructive energy, but we can create babies. We can create human beings. We can birth them. So wow, like we need, in order for us to have these strong women in society and in the world, we need strong men. Right? We need strong men to hold it up, to be pillars of support, to be strong and masculine. I mean, in the hunter and gatherers, they would go hunt for food for their communities, and that created that natural masculine
dynamic,
and feminine force. And I feel like, in what we see now a lot is the opposite of that.
You seem to be very feminine driven, right? I don't know how to describe it, but you seem to have a huge knowledge of what it means to be a woman. But then, what does it mean to be a man then? Like, what are your...
I love seeing men in their power. I'm not even talking about being like powerful and like hitting a woman kind of power. I'm talking about like being in their own power, where they really acknowledge their feminine side as well. And they're sensitive to it, they're empathetic of it, but they hold their space and they have their own purpose in life.
Right.
They are out there making a living. They have a deep sense of dharmic purpose. They know what they want and they go for it. And to me, that's very attractive in a man. The other day I was walking past Studio One in Valley Point, and I saw Blair standing in the middle of the room. He was wearing all black, and he had the 14 students in front of him, and he was standing up and he was talking to them, and it was really exciting for me. It was like it really, like,
You saw him in his natural state.
I saw him in his power.
Yeah.
And he wasn't being,
he wasn't looming over them.
yeah, no, he wasn't. He was
just
there
being
with
there,
them,
yeah.
and I was so affected by that. I couldn't stop thinking of him the whole day, and I had this deep admiration and respect for him. And I love when men can, and imagine if all men are like this, and all women were like this and powerful equally, and we meet. It's like we would have a beautiful world, an empowered world that is embodied within. Right?
Yeah. you need the different energies to complement each other.
Yeah.
Light and dark, fire and water. You need a balance of it. So feminine and masculine, and then if the feminine quality is, or the masculine quality is diluted in some way, there is imbalance already.
Yeah. Always.
Okay.
It's a constant balance and rebalancing. And that's the yoga practice. And we always come back to it because it's what we know, and it's what we practice, what we try to practice at least. And balance. And, I liked what Rodney Yee said once in a journal. And he's a yoga teacher in LA. And he said that it's like an everyday balancing act. Like sometimes you wake up and your gauge has moved a little to the left. So that day you have to kind of move it a little to the right. And sometimes you wake up and your gauge is to the right. And then do you meet the right and that's your balance that day? Or do you bring that back into the center again? And it shifts from moment to moment, from second to second, from minute to minute, from hour to hour, from day to day. And if you think that you wake up one day and you're like, I got this, I'm completely balanced, I'm yogic, I'm done, then you're wrong, because it's a constant fine-tuning and a constant practice and a constant sort of humility to that sort of to that force of nature within ourselves.
On that note, I feel like we've covered what we needed to cover.
Wow, that was like amazing. It was my first podcast I've ever done in my whole life, and I was super nervous, but I feel so comfortable with you, like just sharing with you, and
you're in your space. This is your space.
I felt like we spoke about some really cool things actually. Yeah.
Any final words?
Oh wow! I mean, I think we said it all. I'm just really grateful, like, to have had this conversation and to be able to share this with the people who are listening. And I hope that that this means something to you guys who are listening, and to you, Aaron. And definitely I've learned from this conversation as well, and listening to your story. It was the first time I've actually heard it, so that was really inspiring for me, so I'm really grateful for that too. And if anybody has any feedback or any things to add upon it, please feel free to share, because I would love to hear everyone's opinions and thoughts. And that's what makes it amazing, is that we have the diversity of opinions,
keeping that conversation going,
to keep it alive, and to meet, and to practice that non-judgment, and to keep this world going in a beautiful way.
Well, thank you for taking the time off your busy schedule to do this with me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. I think.
Yeah. How long did that take?
Holy
40. Shit!
Now 40.
That was so good. It was amazing. I hope I wasn't too crazy.
And that's the end. I don't think it was too crazy. I think it was the exact amount of crazy it needed to be. Yeah. Like Mel mentioned at the end of the pod, if you have any questions you want to ask, feel free to reach out to her. If you want to learn more, she's really open to share and to hear different views and perspectives about what we just talked about lah. And just if you see her in the studio or wherever on the streets, just say hi. Who knew that this pod would turn out this way? I never really know what we would talk about. So when we first start chatting, you sort of just getting to know people, and then it becomes so interesting. And then I'm glad that she gave me the opportunity, the occasion to chat with her and to share on this humble platform of mine. If you like what you hear, share on your IG stories, repost it on whatever social media thing that you have, tag me, tag the Mostly Yoga IG account in it so that I can see it. Then I'll repost it. You can DM me. You can wave to me at the studio as well. You wave to me on the streets if you see me. Say hello. I do get people coming up to me, say like students coming up to me and say like, hey, I listen to your podcast. Ayo. Excuse me. Yeah, like people coming up to me and say like, oh, I listen to your podcast. And it's always a bit weird. Like it's always, I feel a bit embarrassed because like, it's like so strange. Like people are listening, I feel very grateful. And I do appreciate it when people come up to me and tell me that they do listen. And it feels nice. So yeah, I appreciate your kind words, strangers who maybe have turned friends now because of this. And don't be a stranger, I guess. Hope everyone's doing well and staying indoors. You can come out now, but just stay safe. Until the next episode, which is hopefully going to be out in a couple of weeks. Have a good day, have a good rest of the day, and have a good life. Okay, bye.